Would you give up a first rounder to get Quentin Grimes, like a low first if you're a contending team?
Quentin Grimes is the guy who's getting some conversation lately.
Yeah. So that's a good question, I would say, particularly because, this is one where it's a little bit different of a trade where he would probably be part of a piece in a move for a better player than him in theory. But as you just kind of look at it in a vacuum, would you give up a first rounder to get Quentin Grimes, like a low first if you're a contending team?
I would probably look at that because he's signed for 4.3 next year. So especially if I was a team that had tax issues, I would probably look pretty hard at that. I don't think he's an amazing player, but I think he's an easy player to fit just because what's he gonna do, right? He's gonna defend, he's gonna shoot a ton of threes. Like that travels, right? You don't have to change anything about your team really. So I do think that's a pretty good value proposition. He's a little crowded out there in New York now. If you look, they acquired Anunoby. Yes, they got rid of Barrett, but you still have DiVincenzo and Hart there ahead of him. McBride's playing as the second ball handler, so that kind of cuts in a little bit. So just not a lot of breathing room for him right now, especially when the Knicks are full strength.
He'll shoot threes. I mean, he really has more of kind of the game of a three because he doesn't give you anything off the dribble whatsoever, even though he would probably like to give you more off the dribble. That just hasn't been the case so far. He can guard up some in some matchups. Like, he's got pretty good strength. He's kind of like a Danny Green light. He doesn't provide that same sort of like rim protection and off-ball defense that Danny Green does, but as just some of the same strengths and weaknesses. So, yeah, would I give up if I knew my pick was going to be in the 20s to try to get him? And would the Knicks rather have just another first-round pick that doesn't grow more and more expensive?
Yeah.
Maybe. It doesn't seem like they're in a position where, like, they're going to want a player back for him, right?
You would think so. You would think they wouldn't do it just to stockpile the war chest when they could probably do the same thing in the offseason.
Yeah, and I do think like he still plays a role for them that I think is important.
And if anyone gets hurt, he immediately moves up the food chain, obviously. And so you have to always plan for that as a team, too.
But yeah, Quentin Grimes would be really useful on the Magic or the Pacers or Cleveland doesn't have a first to trade. If you're Philly, would you be interested there? It just I don't see the Knicks making a trade with like another East contender necessarily.
Yeah, that would be they would probably they would do it if Philly was willing to overpay basically. But I just don't think Philly's in the market to use assets for that kind of move. Like I think if they do something, they're going to swing bigger.
Yeah, are there any other teams you think Grimes would be good on?
There are teams that aren't really capable of getting him. That like could he be
right? Exactly. Yeah.
Could he be good with Phoenix? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Cleveland, he would be a great fit on too. But again, a team that just doesn't have the assets to go get him. Okay, that was good, as always.
Best part of the show.